Okay, so here with third-year Riverhounds wingback Jordan Dover as the team prepares for the trip down to Louisville to take on Louisville City FC in the first round of the USL Championship playoffs. I'm at Gajtka. This is our Pittsburgh Soccer Now 1v1. And, well, Jordan, first of all, you don't miss a lot of time, so I'm sure the last couple of weeks have been a little bit weird for you. Out with a minor injury, it appears you'll be set to go and all healthy for the start of the playoffs. But feeling rested and rejuvenated because you only missed about 60 minutes going into the last couple of games.
Yeah, definitely. The little break did help, got my legs back. Um, as you said, it was just a minor injury. I think I probably could have went last Saturday, but me and Bob had that conversation where it just wasn't worth risking it. I'll take the risk, get my legs ready for the first round against Louisville.
Well, like I said, I know you missed the final game and a half, but what do you think about the team's form at this point of the season? There was a stretch there where you guys hadn't allowed a goal in 5 consecutive matches, and I think it outscored opponents over a 7-game stretch, something like 22-2. So the form was great at about the down stretch of the season there. Had the hiccup loss to Hartford at home, but the team got over that hump and got another 3 points against Philly Union. So you finished second in the group, 1 point behind Hartford. But overall, how do you feel about how the team is going into the playoffs?
I think the team is doing great. I mean, as you said, we were in great form. I think the loss to Hartford was kind of necessary because it kind of humbled us a little bit and just let us know how small the margins are in our game. So regardless of the performances or the form that you're in, like it's just fine details that could change a game and could cost you going home in the playoffs. So I think that loss came at a decent time. Obviously, we would have wanted to come in first in the group, but it was good for us to be able to bounce back the next weekend and kind of keep it in mind that anything is possible so that we're going into Louisville with the right mentality.
Last year's team surged into the playoffs, too. A couple of huge road wins at the end of the year to lock up first place overall in the Eastern Conference, and really similar in terms of points percentages and goals for and against. In fact, this year's team was the best in franchise history in terms of goals for and goals against per game. So does this feel like a team that is peaking? You've been here, like I said, for 3 years. You've seen all of the Bob Lilley era here for the Hounds. So where would you stack this team up in terms of ability to both attack and defend, like a two-way type of a team?
I rate this team very highly. I think we might have had maybe some more talent last year or a couple of years ago, but I think this team, the chemistry is some of the best that I've seen since I've been playing for Bob Lilley. And we got a great group of guys that trust each other, super talented, that are willing to do the work, both offensively and defensively. And I think that is just what works best for us. Guys that are willing to go to battle with each other. So I definitely think we're peaking. I think we're in good form. And I think we have the right ingredients to make a serious run and contend for a championship this year.
Yeah, of course, that's the goal, to raise the USL Cup, which the Hounds haven't done yet in their 20-year history, but looking like a team primed to do it. You played now 70 games as a Riverhound. 68 of those are starts. You and Thomas Van Kuyzeel are the only two who've been here for the past 3 seasons when the team has risen to heights that the franchise hadn't seen in the past. Do you and Tommy, do you feel like the de facto leaders here? Do you try to take charge a little bit more now than you did, say, in 2018 or 2019, now that you have that longevity, not just with this team, but also as a professional? This is your 4th season in the USL Championship.
I think with every year that you play the sport, you're going to gain more experience, of course. And just being with the same coach for my 4th year now, I know exactly what he wants. I know what he requires from my teammates, myself. So the same thing with Tommy, like we just know what's expected. We know the standards, we know the tactics. And we just try and bring our experience and what we've learned from Bob Lilley into the game, because in the games itself, Bob can scream on the sideline and everything, but at the end of the day, it's the players that are on the field. So there's times where you need to have little conversations with the people around you. And I think we have a good group that's very receptive to hearing what other people have to say. We don't have many big egos on our team, which helps as well. So yeah, in the leadership role, I think it comes from a whole bunch of different places on our team. There's a lot of guys that we trust. We lean on each other for support, and I think it's a good mixture of experience and young talent as well.
The team finished the year 11-4-1, so it looks like in general, obviously, like I said, right near the top of the East, right near the top of the league. But it's been a weird year with COVID-19 affecting things, cutting the season in half, actually more than in half. Usually it's 34 games. This year
Mhm.
it's just 16. So, well, you've mentioned the chemistry a couple of times here on the team. Do you feel like any of that development has been limited due to the quick sprint of a season here, or did you guys just feel like you had to get it locked in as a team earlier because of that urgency?
Yeah, I think that's what you would expect. I mean, like, you have guys going home and all over the place, coming back to report for a shortened season and everything. And I think it would have been easy for us to say, like, to use that as an excuse, say, yeah, it'll just be tough this year. Everybody's coming from different places, the virus, we don't know if we're going to have a season for sure. But I think we've used that as fuel to build a solid group, um, and use that to build our chemistry, because we had this conversation throughout the whole season. Just think about the things that we've had to go through as a team. We're all away from our families. Well, a lot of us are away from our families. So the team itself becomes a family in itself, um, especially how we're not allowed to go certain places because of the virus. So it's really the group of guys that you have to stick through. And I think when you can make it through adversity, that just builds the chemistry even more when you're with a group that you've been through things with. Um, so we're trying to keep that in mind going into this weekend, thinking about the things that we've been through as a team, and trying to take that into battle against Louisville.
Well, let's talk about that matchup because it's a rematch of the season opener for you, at
Mhm.
least. You helped open Lynn Family Stadium down there in Louisville, the new palatial estate for Louisville City FC.
Mhm.
And despite trailing 1-0 in the first half, you scored a goal off an assist from Conrado Forbes to tie it up, and then a couple of goals after the half from Robbie Mertz and Anthony Velarde helped you guys steal a 3-1 win there. You really turned the tables on a
Mhm.
team that's hard to do that to, especially on their home field, even as new as it was. So, what can you take from that besides some confidence? What can you take from that in terms of how the game went as you try to repeat that result this weekend?
I mean, I just think we have a resilient group. That was our first game in the season. So we kind of had to figure some things out as the game was going on. I think we had like 4 guys go down with cramps in that game as well. Like, it was just a tough game for everyone. And to be able to go into a hostile environment, because they were having fans at that point as well too. So to be able to go there for their home opener, and still put together a confident, brave performance, I think that was huge for our confidence. And I think it is a factor going into this weekend because we know that we can win there. Um, so it's not that fear that we're going into the game. I think that it's important for us to remember what it took to win there the first time. Obviously, Louisville continued to grow throughout the season. So I think we'll see a much different team than we did the first game. Um, but just trying to remember to be brave. I mean, we have a good side. We know that. So I think we just have to be confident going into there.
You could argue it's two of the hottest teams in the USL Championship, playing with you on a 7-1-1 streak and them on a 7-0-2 run going into the playoffs here. Actually, 9-0-2. Pardon me. They've really turned it up as they usually do. What has made Louisville such a tough opponent? You've been able to get some points off them and some wins off them, especially down in Kentucky. But overall, the matches always seem to be close between you and them. So, what's the part of Louisville's game that makes them such a tough nut to crack?
I think they're just a confident group. They've been on top of the East for a while now, and that's for good reason. They know how to win games, um, and that's not easy to do. To manage situations, um, know the right thing to do at the right time, um, and they have some great players as well that trust each other. So I think they present challenges that a lot of the other teams in the USL don't. They've been together for a long time. And just finding that winning formula isn't always easy, especially in the postseason. So I think it's just important for us to be brave. Um, they'll put together a good performance. We know that, and we just have to be ready to combat that.
Is there any kind of revenge factor in your mind from last year when Louisville ended your season at home in extra time? They came from behind. So you got a little bit of vengeance here in the regular season, but I'm sure that at least for some of you who were on the team last year, there's going to be thoughts of trying to reverse the result of last year's Eastern Conference semi right here in Pittsburgh.
For sure. Those things are always at the back of your mind. I mean, as soon as the game ends last year at Highmark when they won in extra time, you're already thinking about your next opportunity to play Louisville again, because they're the team that knocked you out of the playoffs. So I think it's a great opportunity. We have a lot of the guys from last year's team that will remember that result as well. So I think we have the same opportunity that Louisville had last year when they came to Highmark. So we want to ruin their party the same way that they did to us last year.
Well, one of the guys that was on last year's team and has arguably stepped up as well is Ryan James, your opposite side wingback counterpart. Actually, he's played some in the middle of the park this year when Kenardo Forbes was out, especially with a leg injury. He's your fellow Ontarian, fellow Canadian. What have you seen from his game? Because you've seen his game for a while, and of course he also played for Bob Lilley in the past too. So he has that familiarity coming in now in his second year as a Riverhound. But where did you see him take a step? Because it seemed like not just in the goal category where he had 5, that obviously stands out, but like I said, the guy was almost everywhere on the field. It seemed like this year, and continued to show exactly why Lilley brought him in last year.
I think Ryan's just a player that continually grows. He's super consistent, and he's always ready to step up to the next challenge. In the Hartford game when Kenny went down, Ryan was ready to pick up the armband. So not only on a performance level, but a leadership level as well. I think he's continued to grow, and I think he's been huge for us. I think the energy that he brings, the composure that he brings, is great for our whole team. And it was really nice to see him grow as a leader this year. I think that's the one thing that I commend him for the most. And he had some huge goals for us as well, which we talk about often. Like, it's not often that us as wingbacks get goals. And for him to have 5 this year is huge. So I'm super proud of him, and he's been huge for our team.
Well, let's turn it to your development at your position. Well, first of all, I wanted to ask you about the position you play for the Riverhounds. You came in out of college, out of Wisconsin, Green Bay. I'm wondering where your mentality was as where you thought you might fit as a pro, and how that's developed now to where you have been locked in at that right wingback spot for the Hounds for the last 3 years.
For sure. Well, when I was in college to start with, I didn't play much of wingback at all. I kind of was in the midfield, floating around, like just getting plugged in where the coach had needed me. And then one game I ended up playing right back. And then I figured this was a position that I think I could grow in with the qualities that I have. I could see the game in front of me. I think with my skill set and my work rate, I just think that was the best position that suited me. So once I made that transition, I felt that it was my best chance at making it to the professional level. And just getting into a system that suited me with Bob Lilley was huge for my career and my development. I think my style of play suits the way that Bob likes to play. So I trust him and he trusts me. So that has just been great for me as well.
What do you find in his system about your position that's unique or different? Does he ask for more from wingbacks than some other coaches do?
I feel that we have to cover maybe a little bit more ground than some other wingbacks do in the league. And I think our defensive responsibilities are a bit higher in a Bob Lilley system. I think some other teams just like to search for players that are good on the offensive end, but not always the greatest defensively. And I think Bob looks for players that can impact the game going both ways. So I think just being able to go 2 ways is the biggest way that I fit into his system, I think. So
it's been more than a year now since you made your international soccer debut for Guyana in last year's Gold Cup. In fact, you made your debut as a starter against the United States, so not exactly an easy start to your international career, but thrown right into the fire there, and had an opportunity to really play a role for a team in the Gold Cup, not just come off the bench, but to be an integral part. Have you felt like you've been a different player since you've returned, and if so, how so?
What I would say about that is it was just a great experience. And when you get to play on a big stage like that, it prepares you further for big moments like a game in Louisville. a game in Louisville would be similar to playing an international game. It's just big moments, and once you're able to handle those big moments, I think your career becomes a little bit easier. So I think the international, excuse me, the international experience that I have has really helped me to stay level when I'm playing in big moments, to try and stay consistent. Helps with my nerves because I've been in these moments before. So I think it's just been great for my growth.
And well, speaking of these big moments, let's finish up there. Without giving away too much tactically, what do you think is an integral part of what your team's going to have to do to give yourself the best chance to win on Saturday and pull off that upset, I guess you could call it, even though both teams really finished in the same spot in the Eastern Conference standings?
I think the main thing and the main message for us is just that we have to be brave. We're going into Louisville, who's been rolling as of late, like you said. We're going to play at their place. Cards are kind of stacked against us, but we always knew that if we had serious hopes of contending for a championship, that we'd most likely have to go through Louisville. So just going into the game, I think it's just bravery, being up for the moment, knowing that we have a good side that can get a result in Louisville. And just bringing the energy there.
We always kind of thought that we'd see the Hounds and the boys in purple go at it again in October, maybe a little earlier and perhaps in a different location than we probably thought even a couple of weeks ago. But still, like Jordan just said, you have to expect these two teams to collide at some point, and we're going to get it in the first round as opposed to later in the playoffs like we saw last year. Jordan, thanks so much for the time. I really appreciate that.
Appreciate it, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Okay, you can catch the Hounds on 22 The Point this weekend, 7:30. Also, we'll have the coverage at PittsburghSoccerNow.com.